So everybody in Buffalo is always talking about who's got the best chicken wings. Well, let me tell you, hands down, that is Elmo's. It was Khalil Mack's favorite, and I think it'll be your favorite. It is at 2349 Millersport in Gettsville, New York, or Amherst, New York. I would highly recommend that you go with the Cajun Hot. These are double dipped wings. They are no doubt the best around. They're going to put everybody else to shame. Elmo's also has a full restaurant and a great bar. And you want to tell them D-Money sent you. Enjoy. Hello, Buffalo. Welcome to Moneyball. We have a very special guest here today. I have Mr. Sal Capaccio. He is of WGR 550 fame for local Buffalonians, but he's also done a whole lot of other things in his career. And that's what we're going to dip into and dive in a little bit here and get to know the man. Most local Buffalonians kind of know Sal as, you know, the Buffalo Bills beat reporter, traveling with the team, doing a whole lot with Buffalo. But we're gonna get to know him a little bit and find out his story, how he got to where he is now. So welcome, Sal. How are you this morning?
I'm great, Donovan. Thanks for having me, man. I really appreciate you reaching out.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. It's my pleasure. Long time actual listener, to you and what you do, and never really got to know you. So this is a great opportunity as well. So I think I want to start with give us your story. Are you from Buffalo originally? Tell us where you're from, how you got to where you are, Sal.
Well, how much time we have here because
we got about 30. So
I have a more unique story probably than a lot of people, on their journey. But yeah, I grew up in Cheektowaga.
Okay.
I went to Cleveland Hill High School and shout out Golden Eagles. I was just inducted into their Hall of Fame this summer. I'm a big Cleveland guy still, and I love my alma mater and everything that it represents. But my father came here from Italy, from near Naples. In the 50s, late 50s. He actually came over on a very famous boat called the Andrea Doria. The Andrea Doria is famous because it actually hit the USS Stockholm and sank, and a lot of Italian immigrants died. My dad was on the voyage right before that, actually, believe it or not.
Wow.
It went back to Italy, and then it came back. And
wow, we're starting out with a bang. That's a literal bang, I guess, right?
Yeah, right.
That's
the
pretty...
Stockholm actually was had its whole front edge shaved off, and it stayed afloat. The Andrea Doria had a big hole in it, and it sunk, and it's off the coast of Nantucket, actually.
Wow.
So he settled in here, and they settled down on Swan Street.
Is the boat still there?
I believe the Andrea Doria, I've been told, is one of the most visited shipwrecks for scuba divers in the world because people do that. So I've never been over there.
See where my brain goes, Sal? That's I immediately go down a wormhole. We're not even a minute in, and I'm already talking to you off beat here. I'm already thinking about the Andrew. You know what I mean? It's how my brain works. So amazing. I'm sorry. Carry on.
No. Apparently, that's the case. My mom was born in South Buffalo. She went to South Park High School, and my parents, young age, my dad, he actually dropped out of high school and changed his birth certificate so he could work because to have to be able to be of age to work. And he's like me. I got the gift of gab from my dad. My dad was a singer, was in a band. They would go around Buffalo nightclubs. He'd sing. They actually made a record. I have the record. I have the song and everything. It's pretty cool. It's on an old 78, not a 45, a 78. I don't know how old you are, but maybe you can remember that.
I turned 45 a couple days ago.
So you know what I'm talking about pretty much.
Yeah,
right?
The 8-track is about as far back as I go, Sal, and you're not too much older than me.
No, it's right. I just turned 50 myself. So
okay, happy birthday.
Yeah, thank you. So
hey, listen, what kind of music was
it? Rock. My dad, he sang rock, and with the saxophonist, that kind of rock and roll, but he was a big Elvis fan. Growing up, I had a lot of Elvis in my house and stuff like that. So it was pretty cool. Anyway, and then my dad actually went to Vietnam, and back then you didn't have to have, I think maybe he got a GED, I guess, you know what I mean, to be able to do it. But I know he dropped out of high school and went to Vietnam. And, my mom, she had my brother when she was 20, me when she was 23. She was a young mom and grew up. And when my dad came back, we didn't have much, actually at one point, my dad was an electrician. And unfortunately, I didn't learn crap about being an electrician. If something happens in my house, I call someone to fix it. You know what I mean?
You and I both.
I was too focused on sports and playing sports and reading about sports. Sports was my whole life growing up. I loved sports, loved the Sabres, loved the Bills, had family members. And my dad and mom weren't even big sports fans, but they knew I loved sports, and I had other family members that did. So it was pretty cool. And I have an older brother, John. And we went to high school in Cleveland Hill. I grew up actually originally, though, before high school, I lived in Cheektowaga in Tyrunda, Cedar Grove Heights area, like literally right next to the Buffalo Drive-In where it used to be.
Okay.
And I remember growing up and sitting on my aunt's bed and watching the drive-in and turn on the FM radio so we'd hear the sound, we could watch the movie. You know what I mean?
That's
So that was
cool.
pretty
That's
cool.
cool. You
Yeah,
had
but
a
we
direct view there you could watch?
oh yeah, it was great. It was great.
Oh
You know,
man.
it was on. So
So
it was
let me try
awesome.
to put myself in a time frame here. If you're 50, maybe E.T. No, going back a couple, right? Maybe Jaws or something,
Yeah, I would
right?
say
And
around
that
there. I think maybe even yeah, probably later, a
Indiana
little
Jones or
later
something
than
like that.
Star Wars, maybe. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
Indiana
yeah,
Jones.
yeah,
Good. That's a good reference point. I like that.
yeah. That's pretty
Like
cool to be
that.
able to watch that, tune in and watch that.
And who knows what movies we were watching, but whatever the drive was showing.
It probably wasn't either of those. It was probably some ridiculous, like,
It doesn't
yeah,
matter. We just yeah,
it doesn't
right.
matter.
It wouldn't matter. I mean, we would just that's what we did.
Yeah.
And but anyway, sports was always my life. I'm a huge Sabres fan and Bills fan growing up, and but I played sports too, and I played baseball and I played Pop Warner football. I started when I was third grade, and just loved the sports thing. And I always as I got older, though, it's really kind of the only thing I cared about too much was sports, and I always would joke to people, and I still do that. I say like I could name like the last 30 Heisman Trophy winners. You know what I know about about a car, where to stick a key. You know what I mean? Like that's how I didn't learn
Yeah.
anything about anything
Yeah.
in life.
Hey, what's up to all my Moneyball listeners? You need some collision work done? I'm going to give you the best guy in the business. His name is Danny Tomasello. He's over at 10 Queen Street, Buffalo, New York, in the Lovejoy area. You're going to want to see him. Tell him D Money sent you. And he will take good care of you and get all of your collision work done with no hassle. Thanks.
But it was great. And I had parents that really, allowed me to kind of do that and be a part of all those sports that I wanted to. Anyway, the point is, at a young age, though, I was a very good athlete, but I've never been the biggest guy, and I was actually through high school, I played sports. I played three sports. I was a three-sport athlete, and I was actually like a Connolly Cup nominee here in
Okay.
Western New York for high school football. But I would love to play college football, but I was never big enough. So I knew that maybe getting into sports broadcasting would be my path, and I know that Syracuse was a great place to go, Syracuse University,
The place to go.
but super expensive, right? And I know you can go to other places, Buff State, whatever, things like that. But I wanted to go to Syracuse. That's where all of them went. And I'm growing up, and it's Mike Tirico and Dick Stockton and
Yeah,
Ted
absolutely.
Koppel from Nightline, right?
That
And
was the place to go. Yep.
that's right, rocking New Year's Eve with Dick Clark. Dick Clark went to Syracuse. Like that doesn't matter. You throw a dart, you hit somebody in the
Right.
head that went to Syracuse in the media. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
it's still that way. Yeah.
100%. You know a lot of people like that nowadays. But we made it work though. We took out a lot of loans, and we went, and I went to Syracuse University to get into broadcasting, and it was great. Enjoyed my time there. Loved my time there. While I was there though, my father died of a heart attack at the age of 48.
Sorry.
And, yeah, and it's just 30 something years ago now.
Yep.
And my dad was 48. He probably looked like he was 70 something. And again, he was in
had a
Vietnam. I
tough
think he had
life,
maybe
right?
what's that?
Tough
Yeah,
life. Kind of
tough
lived
life.
it. Lived more in those 48 years than most, especially nowadays. Most
Yes.
people live in 80 years. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, and I mean, so he was a young man, but he lived a lot older, as you said. And
Yeah.
it's funny. I said he changed his birth certificate. I always bring that up because when he passed away, that said he was 49 officially. But he was
Yeah, I was
48.
going to ask, how do we know how old he really was?
He's 48. He's actually 49 officially. You go to the grave and it says, he's born in 43 when he's really born in 44.
Okay.
So anyway,
That's
and
wild.
he died. This is 92, I think. So anyway, so
How old were you at that time?
I was 19, not yet 20. I was living my second year at Syracuse.
That's tough, man. That's
yeah,
a tough blow. You and your father were real close?
yeah, we were close, but my dad growing up though, my dad had a gambling problem.
Yeah.
And that was a tough thing. My mom and dad divorced because of it.
Okay.
So and my mom had remarried already by then. She'd been married maybe a year or two, but they divorced when I was in high school.
Okay.
And she had remarried, and my dad and I were very close, but that was always an issue, and a lot of things would pop up financially, stuff like that, and it was struggle. I mean, I mean, we grew up at times. I remember we had food stamps,
Yeah.
and I remember, we just didn't have anything. I think, my dad, he'd work odd jobs, and my mom didn't make a ton of money, but she worked her butt off every single day. She was a hardworking South Buffalo girl, right? And she never went to college. She graduated high school. She worked for doctors' offices and things like that. And so yeah,
it's funny hearing this and how synonymous it is with myself. I lost my real dad, my biological dad, when he was 45. I was 16,
All right.
you know, and I remember getting that phone call. I was in high school. Actually, it was right before I was leaving to go to high school. The reason I bring that up is I know how hard it is, and I was not close with my biological father at all. Being close, right? I mean, I know how hard it is to deal with. We were also food stamps, you know, we were the same exact situation, right? So it's very, very synonymous. It's so relatable. And again, not to cut you off here, it's just hearing it, man, it resonates so much. And your path that you took is the exact path I wanted to take. So basically, what I did, we didn't find the means, you know, for me to go and do it, right? Like I went to Buff State, I went for 3 weeks. I was like, this isn't for me, and I left, and it was like one of those things where I kind of fell into a different crowd. This isn't about me, this is about you. But to hear this, you know, and to hear it resonate, it's almost like it's like a mirror image there for a minute. It was just kind of crazy hearing it all. And you know, one thing, Sal, too, you know, with your dad and you know, the gambling issues, you never really know if he had this, you know, extreme guilt, or if he felt like I'm trying to do this because one big score and I can send my son to school type thing. You know what I'm saying? And that's kind of the gambler's mentality, you know, too. You don't know if that was ever the case, but just
and you know,
interesting. Sorry to interrupt, but it was just
no,
like,
no. And when
that's
you funny that when you think about gambling, especially these days, it's like, you know, going online and playing all the football games and the spread. My dad wasn't even into that. He actually he loved the horses.
okay.
He loved him. I remember my dad would actually, I would be in high school and he would, it's kind of funny, you know, in a weird way, it kind of really grew my passion for sports radio, because what happened was, and I don't mean to make it into a positive, but my dad would drive to OTB
Okay.
with me and he'd go in for like an hour to bet on horses, and I would listen to sports talk radio.
Oh my God, you'd be out in the car?
Yeah.
Wow.
And listen to the Bills, and I listened to Art Wander, the Tiny Tot of the Killer,
Artie
and
Baby Boo Boo.
Baby Boo Boo. And so Art had this show, and people would call in. If you ever listened to him back in the day, people would call in. They'd have these nicknames: Mr. T, Ace, Polish Prince, whatever. Well, I went to Cleveland Hill, and Golden Eagles right here. There you go. I went to Cleveland Hill, and because of that, I was the Golden Eagle, and I would call it.
Okay.
And that was my name. But I was in high school. I was 10th, 11th grade, and I'm calling. What I do is, you know, the old cassette tape, and I would get on and I would press the button at home. I press the button, record myself, and I'd literally check myself. And like,
wow, this is crazy hearing this. This is crazy.
Right. So I would come back and, oh yeah, I was good on that call, whatever. You
would actually go and analyze your own call?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
100%. And the other thing I did was I think a lot of kids did this, but I did play-by-play watching Sabres games. Like I'd turn down Ted Darling and I'd do the play-by-play, and then I'd go back and listen to myself. Right. I mean, that's what I would do. So I always knew that this was what I wanted to do and what I would get into, and never about writing. I was a talker. I want to talk. I don't care. I'm not going to go write for the Buffalo News. I'd get and read it every day. I was a paper boy at one point. Right.
Sure.
Read the columns and read Larry Felser and those guys. But I wanted to talk. That's what I did, and be on TV. And my heroes, I guess, the guys I looked up to, Rick Azar and Ed Kilgore and John Murphy. Right? I mean, these are guys that I'm watching growing up on TV, and I wanted to be them. I wanted to be Rick Jenrette. I wanted to be Ted Darling. In the meantime, so one time I call Art Wander, and I said, "Hey, Art," I said, "I have a question for you. I'd like to ask you off the air." He said, "Call me right after the show." This is on the air. He says, "This is call me right after the show." So after the show,
now Sal, he kind of knew you. You had your tag, right? You were the Eagle, and you were you called all the time, so they knew who you were, right? So you kind of had a rapport with him. So he was like, afterwards, I'll talk to you, kind of thing.
Yeah, and literally, like, this is back before social media, way before, right?
Right.
Had like a get together party every once in a while. Now we have these like parties where people, hey, we're gonna have a meetup, right? You get on, hey, Twitter,
yeah,
meetup when we're here. And I remember he had one at, I don't even know, there was an old place down Transit Road somewhere. What is it called now? What was it called? It's got the batting cages way down Transit Road. You go down, you go north. It's on the left-hand side as you go towards Lockport. And there's nothing there anymore, but these have batting cages and volleyball courts.
Yeah. I don't remember what it was, but I can see it in my head driving down Transit, right?
Yeah, if you go north.
Like you go past the old Santoras and all that on the left. Yeah, I don't know what it was called, but
always forget it, because every time I see it, I think that's where I met up with all these listeners from Art Wander's show that he had.
Okay, yeah.
And they're all drinking. I'm in high school, right? Anyway, So I call him up after the show. He picks up the phone right away and he goes, "Hello, Golden Eagle." And I go, he knew who I was. And right away he knew I was calling. And I said, "Hey, Art, listen," I said, "I am, graduating high school soon. I really want to go to Syracuse University to do this for a living. I'd love it if you could write me a letter of recommendation." And he did. He wrote me a letter of recommendation at Syracuse University, right? And I'm not saying it's why I got in, but I mean, it's cool to say that
Sure.
he was
No, absolutely.
taking the
Kudos
initiative.
to you for having the courage to do that, right? One thing I always tell people, and I'm trying to teach my three young boys, 10, 7, and 3, lions, not sheep, right? You need to have the courage to step up. And there's a lot of kids, especially in high school, that would have, number one, been intimidated to go to that meetup. Number two, been intimidated to call regularly like you did, and number three, to ask Art Wander for a letter, right? So right there, man, edge up to you, because you're, to have that courage, which I feel like some of it you're born with, some of it, I hope maybe your father instilled that in you, but it's just one of those things that, that right there, could have started your path, just the courage to go ahead and do that,
Yeah, for sure. And so I do. I go to Syracuse, and so my brother and I, we worked at Tony's Pizza on Harlem Road and Cleveland Drive for a long time. My dad and Tony were good friends. They both came from Italy. And my dad, we lived right on Harlem Road near the school, and I lived with my dad. So when he died, I was at Syracuse.
Okay.
So now, when I come home in the summer, I'd live with my brother, I'd stay with my mom, whatever, and kind of back and forth. But I was at Syracuse, and I was doing the and I was always told, just get involved. And that's my best advice to kids now. Get involved in anything you can. So I got involved with the college radio station, the college TV station. I did all that. Just like in high school. I played 3 sports, but basketball wasn't one of them. And I was the PA announcer for the high school basketball games at Cleve Hill when I was in high school.
Yep. So still involved. Yep.
I was trying to do all that to get all these reps. So anyway, go to Syracuse, and I want to be you go there and you realize then there's thousands of people like me, who want to do this for a living.
Right.
So competitive. You're
intimidating. What is it? Intimidating a little bit?
A little bit intimidating that hey, a lot of these guys know sports like me.
Yeah.
But I would always think to myself, yeah, they can't talk like me. Right. But or they're going to be, maybe they're going to be writers or whatever, but I always felt I was still good at what I did. But yes, in a sense of competition, now you're with a lot of people who've like-minded like you. Right.
Yeah, right.
And, it was in that sense, but also it was a great time to meet friends and get involved with radio and TV. That. So 1995, I'm getting out of Syracuse, and I get a phone call from one of my best friend's cousins. I happened to meet him, and he's a couple of years ago, and he said a couple years before that, he says, "Hey," he goes, "I know you're getting out of Syracuse." He goes, "I don't know what your job prospects are." He goes, "But," he says, "I'm running a little radio station down here in Southwest Florida. And if you're looking for a job," he says, "we are looking for salespeople, but I know that you want to be on air. But, if you're willing to help us sell,
Sure.
I can get on." I'm like, "Oh my God, this is great." Right. So basically that's what I did. None of my friends were getting jobs. It's crazy. It's hard. You're breaking in.
Now, is this after Syracuse? Had you graduated?
Not yet. It was just right before.
Okay.
It was about 6 months before. You know what I mean?
Okay.
He was just kind of laying the groundwork, and I'm
Right.
yeah. So then after I get out of Syracuse, I do go down there, and I'm like, yeah, this is great. I can do this. It's a tiny radio station. It's called WENG. It was a little town called Englewood, Florida, a little south of Sarasota. Okay. It was way off the beaten path. This town, Donovan, people say retired people move to Florida.
Yeah.
Retired people's parents moved to this town. That's how old. Really old. And, and I'm down there, and I'm starting off, and they gave me this little sports show to do every day for an hour, which is great. In the afternoon, meantime, I had to go sell, and I'd literally be driving to these. I'd be cold calling, walking into consignment shops or jewelry stores, and going,
right.
"You want to advertise on the radio?" You know what I mean?
Right.
It was the bane of my existence. I hated it. I can't do it. Hey, I can talk to anybody. If you get them going, I can close it. I don't want to ask anybody. And I think part of it was I grew up never asking people for handouts, right? And I felt like it was almost even though it's not, I'm giving them a service, right?
Yeah.
But me to ask you for money in any way was I couldn't do that.
Right.
And I think that was part of it. It's so uncomfortable for me. But I was doing that, and
you enjoyed the talking to people, the getting to know them part, but when it came to closing and asking for the money, that was awkward, right?
Yeah. Just it, and I couldn't do it, and I hated it. I just hated that part of it. But it was why I was on the air. And in the meantime, we were doing literally play-by-play of Little League baseball in this town because the moms and the dads, the grandparents would eat it up. We'd sell it. It was great. That's how I was getting
were the Orioles down there yet?
Orioles had just left Sarasota. Well, actually, I think they were there for a little while. White Sox had left. I'm sorry, White Sox had been there. The White Sox were there actually for a while. Orioles were there. The town right below me, Port Charlotte, had the Texas Rangers, and then then they had the Rays for a while.
Yep.
So I was kind of in this area. I had spring training around the area. It was great.
Yeah. I love that area. I go every single March or April. We go down to spring training and I'll do 5 or 6 of them.
You know exactly what I'm talking about, right? It's
Yeah.
just south of Venice, north of Port Charlotte. And in the meantime, too, we carried Bucks games, Tampa Bay, we carried Florida State, Miami Dolphins. Like we were affiliates for different teams over years. So I learned how to work the board and do all that, doing my thing. Anyway, down there, and you know, when you're young and you're ambitious, you think you're going to get a job like right away at ESPN and be on it or wherever in finance, you're going to be on Wall Street right away. It's just going to work out.
Of course.
It doesn't work that way, right? So, you know, I'm kind of banging my head against the ceiling here and thinking, okay, when's this going to happen? And then I started to make connections. People, I would go up to Sarasota, do a little bit of stuff on their like ESPN affiliate, and then but it still wasn't a big deal. And then this guy asked me to be on this TV show up in Sarasota every Thursday night. I would go up there. It's called Let's Talk Sports with Donnie G. And it was at the Comcast station. He owned this little, not like, what do you call it? Not like it was a little cable channel. It's called Blab TV. You know what I mean?
But you're making your way, right? You know?
Yeah. So I would make those connections and do that. But I never could like just kind of, I would get jobs from these like things online or in the mail at the time. I would apply for them around the country. Nothing ever materialized. Well, the other part of this was I'm in this town and I'm a single dude. I'm in my 20s. Like I'm kind of bored. You know what I mean? And every girl I would meet, to be quite honest with you, like a lot of them, they were coming down from up north, running away from some problems.
Right.
It just wasn't, and yeah, you make friends, you make connections, whatever, but it just was not for me necessarily. And I'm like, okay, it's time to branch out. But where are you going to go? You're trying to also make a life. That's a tough deal. Do I want to move somewhere cold? Do I want to stay here?
Well, the other thing, the money, right? I mean, you're obviously you weren't making a whole lot of money doing what you were doing. I know that, so there's part of keeping up living too.
What I started bartending at night. I started bartending.
Yeah.
And this bar nearby, there was 2 former New York City Port Authority police, the greatest dudes ever. They opened this huge sports bar called the End Zone, and they hired me, and I worked for them. It was great being at the sports bar.
Awesome.
Awesome talking. And every time in the spring training, all the writers would come in, and it was a great time.
That's cool. That's cool.
Hanging out with these guys was great. Because I was an athlete and everything, I was interested in coaching a little bit, and I was a little bit bored and I wanted to fill some time. So I started actually coaching. Our radio station had sponsored a Little League team. So I became the coach of the Little League team. So I'm coaching this Little League team, 9, 10-year-olds. And then I'm like, I really like coaching football too. I mean, I love playing football. I was a football player. I think I could coach. So I started coaching Pop Warner football. So now I'm coaching Little League baseball, Pop Warner football. I'm in my 20s and I have no kids and I'm doing this. The high school coach comes to me, the high school football coach, and he goes, hey, all the parents really say you do a really good job. You're here for the right reasons. You don't have any kids. I would like you to join my high school staff, coaching staff. I'm like, okay, that'd be great. I think I'd coach. Yeah. Well, down there they have spring football for high school, as you know, right? Yeah. So I go one spring coaching. I'm like, you know what? Maybe I want to do this. Maybe radio. I've hit my wall. I hit my ceiling. It sucks. So I literally left radio and TV, went back to the University of South Florida to get certified to teach, to become a high school teacher coach.
Okay.
And I did, and I left it. And in 2 of my classes was this woman who later became my wife, who's now I'm still married to.
Oh, no kidding. Okay.
She was getting her master's degree at USF in substance abuse and clinical psychology.
Okay.
For 10 years, I was a social studies teacher. I taught American history, government, world history. I taught kids with disabilities. And I was a football coach, coached both sides of the ball, JV, varsity.
What school was it you were a teacher at?
Lemon Bay High School. It's in Charlotte County, right near Sarasota, just south of Venice.
So you went to USF, the campus right off Bruce B. Downs?
No, they have a satellite campus in Sarasota.
Okay.
Too, but yes, that's exactly where I went for a few times, like a couple days a week for a little.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's a small world. Crazy. I mean, I know that's my second home, that area. So
I've up there, and yeah, that's where I, like I said, my wife, and she was in a couple of my classes, maybe in that campus, but either way, yeah, that's what I did. Um,
Now, how long did
so
you do this? How long did you teach?
so for 10 years,
Wow.
and I was a football coach, and then I was a baseball coach,
Okay.
high school baseball. But man, the parents were told, baseball parents, sometimes I'm dealing with it now with a 10 year. My parents are great, by the way, the ones I coach now. My little, I want to say that, but high school baseball, the parents can be tough.
I coach as well, and trust me, I know where you're coming from.
And I say that because what happened was the head girls track and field job came open, and I'm like, ooh, you know what? Maybe I could do that. So I actually told the AD I wanted to do that, and I switched from baseball to track and field. I became the head girls track and field coach.
Okay.
And I mean, look, I don't know all the ins and outs of coaching track and field. So what I did was I hired a couple assistants who knew what they were doing. And then I recruited the living hell out of every single girls athletics team in the school and got all the volleyball players and all the basketball players to come out. And
Awesome.
we dominated, and we won 3 district championships in 4 years with me as the head coach. Amazing.
Wow.
It was great. And the byproduct was I sent girls off to run in college. It was awesome.
Phenomenal feeling.
It was incredible. Well, at that time, we were also really good in football for a little while. And then we got bad because that's what happens in high school. It's just high school football, the ebbs and flows. And it started.
Think about it. It really happens all, in the pros too, right? You get to that, you run that gamut, and yeah.
Yeah. And then it started to become more of a chore than than anything else. And it's getting really frustrated. And then what happened was I wasn't loving a couple of the guys I was coaching with. And I think they just weren't there for the right reasons, if that makes sense. Right.
Sure.
But I'm doing my job. And there was this one particular guy who became a coach, and he was on staff, and he basically didn't treat the kids like he was a mentor. He treated them like they were his friends. And I never sat well with me every day. And I bring it up because it was kind of the catalyst for me to finally say, I'm done with this. It might have happened anyway, because I really wanted to get back in the media. At this point, I was getting frustrated. I liked teaching. It wasn't my passion.
Right.
Radio was my passion.
Right.
And I realized that because when we got bad in football and it became more of a grind, I wasn't loving it.
Right.
And I think in that world, you got to love it because you're there for the kids, and you got to be there.
You should be anyways. And you're right. If you're not there for the right reasons, get out. Yeah.
My heart wasn't in it for a couple of years. Right. And I'm like, I want to go back into radio, and I want to do it in Buffalo. And I would listen to WGR. They had just started streaming online, early 2000s, whatever. And I would think, that's where I want to be. I want to be at WGR, whatever. And I would listen. I'm like, I know I can play in that world. I know I can do it, whatever. But I'm getting now in my 30s, right? I'm like, And so this guy that I was coaching with, he was very inappropriate at practice, the things he would talk to kids about. And I just never. So one time, and of course he would be the rah-rah speech guy because he'd give F-bombs, and kids love that, right?
Yeah. They thought he was great. Yeah.
Of course, right?
I know the type, yeah.
So one day we're playing a team, Port Charlotte High School. Port Charlotte's where Anthony Hargrove went. Remember Anthony Hargrove used to play for the Bills, defensive tackle?
Absolutely. And I know Port Charlotte pretty well, yeah.
Anthony Hargrove, actually, believe it or not, was a defensive tackle in the NFL. At this high school, he was a quarterback and safety.
Okay.
And so I coached against him. Playing them one time, and I bring this story up specifically because this was the end of the road for me. He takes the kids, and we're in this field house. Takes the kids in the field house, and he's going to give the speech, pump up speech, right? And he goes, tonight, he goes, we're playing the Port Charlotte Pirates. They're just 20 minutes down the road. You know what Pirates have been throughout history? And I'm not going to say what he said.
Yeah.
But he got very he was very very inappropriate.
Yeah.
And
graphically inappropriate. Yeah.
Graphically inappropriate.
Yeah.
In front of these high school boys.
Right.
And some high school girls who are water girls who are inside.
Who are so impressionable. Yeah.
And saying anyway, and I'm like, I walked out and I said, I'm not going to go down with this ship. I'm going to leave, and I'm going to go back into media, and I can't be
right there. That was it right there.
I can't do it anymore. I've taken enough. In the meantime, like we're talking about a guy who, like, during practices would talk bad about other coaches behind their back to kids.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, I can't be a part of this. This is what I'm about.
Yeah.
I'm here for these kids. I'm not here for this, but I can't get through these kids because they think you're cool, not me. I'm here to help.
Negativity breeds negativity. And as he's doing that, all these kids are thinking that that's the right way to do it. And I really hope now that those kids aren't coaching somebody else,
No, the best part is a lot of those kids now I have great relationships with years later, how much they now, a couple of them told me, like, that guy was crazy.
Good.
You
That makes me smile. I mean, honestly, that's good.
And I bring that up because I just think it's a good point of like, you got to be in it. Let's be good people. You know what I mean? And know why you're there and the right reasons. And you're teaching people and you're, mentoring to people, and it's just like, I can't be a part of this. So I told my head coach after that game, I walked into his classroom the next morning. I said, hey, he knew that things were going on like this, but I said, I think I'm gonna finish out this year. That's gonna be it. I'm gonna go back. I want to go back in the meet. I want to try my hand in it. And, so, I kind of did it. I took the high road out, you know what I mean? If you will, you know what I mean? Not like I'm done
Well,
here.
I don't know, that's respectable too, Sal, because you said I'm going to finish out the year. I mean, the way you felt, I think the way you felt and the way it was just being described, I thought you were like, listen, I've had enough. I'm out of there.
No, I couldn't quit. I couldn't quit my kids. I was still coaching my kids, my
Yeah,
position.
that's respectable.
Not going to do that, but I let the kids know, like, hey, this is maybe like, there's some things. And what I did, I told the kids, hey, there's some things I want to do in my life. I really want to get to, and this is a great lesson for you guys. If you ever want to do something, you really got to heart in it, and that's what I did. I never told the kids why I was leaving, but that's a big reason why. But the other reason was I really did want to get in the media. It kind of was the confluence of events, right? Right around this time, WGR had a sports talk show host opening. I applied for it. And also at this time, podcasting had just started.
Now, how do you hear about something like that? You're down in Florida. Obviously, you got your ear to the streets in Buffalo. You got a lot of friends still in Buffalo and everything else. How did you hear? Just total coincidence that WGR had a sport. How did you find that out?
A friend of mine told me. Um, and I don't know. And it was, and I don't know if Brad Ryder had a show, and
I know Brad. Yep.
Brad was let go, and Brad's a friend of mine, and I say it because it's the historical part of it, but he was let go, and it was his show at night, and that's how I found out. And my buddies told me. I'm like, okay. In the meantime, podcasting had just become in its infancy, just starting. And I saw this. I'm like, what's this podcasting thing? So So I started doing this Bills podcast. I might have been the first Bills podcaster ever. I'm not kidding. I don't know. I was down in Florida. And I did the show Buffalo Stampede, like in the early 2000s. On this network that was trying to grow like these networks are now with all these different shows.
Can we still find this somewhere? Somewhere can we find the Stampede?
No, I don't think so. But it was a thing called mysportsradio.com. That's what it was called. You can try that. I don't know. Anyway, so I sent some stuff up to Buffalo, sent it to the program director. He's like, hey, I think you're really good. I don't think you have any shot for this job. You're not on live radio anywhere. You're not in the business anymore, but I'll keep you in mind. Okay, whatever. In the meantime, I'm listening. They're cycling people through. They're trying people out. I'm listening every night online. They're like all these different people. He calls me and he goes, all right, I have not liked what I've heard. I'm going to give you a shot. I go up to, he says, you got to go to Tampa to go on, and I'll bring you in like through a satellite, an ISDN line.
Sure.
So I hosted on WGR for the first time ever while I was in Florida trying out on Halloween night, 2009. I remember it.
No kidding.
Yeah. And
we can find in the archive somewhere.
Right. The topic of the show was JP Lossman against Trent Edwards.
Okay. Wow. Okay.
And then I got out. He called me. He goes, oh my God, I loved your energy. You were amazing. I want you to do it again. I did it again.
Think about that a minute, Sal. Think about that. 2009 Lossman Edwards, right? I mean, think about where we are and this guy standing next to me here. I mean, like, that's wild, but go ahead. I'm sorry.
So, and I'm talking so much here. I'm sorry. I know we're going on.
No, listen, that's why you're on, and this is a great story, and I love hearing it. So
I go on again the next week. It's like election night, and I remember talking that night. Anyway, he loves it. He calls me not long after, and he says, "Man, you were great. I would love to hire you, but I can't." I'm like, "What?" He says, "Not looking for a full-time person, looking for a part-time, and you got a job down there. You're full-time down there." I'm like, dude, and you're in your 30s already, and you'd have to change careers, come up here and work for radio for part-time. And I'm like, dude, I'm an adult. I can make that decision. Why don't you tell me? Right. He goes, all right, you ever want to come up to Buffalo and start over in radio? You can do it. Tell me you want to come up, but you're going to work part-time for garbage money.
Yeah.
And start over. And I hung up the phone and I went into my bedroom and I was 30-something years old and I bawled my eyes out.
Yeah.
My dream job. And it was snatched away. And I wrote him a handwritten letter. I said, thank you for letting me live my dream. You made a mistake. You should have hired me. Handwritten letter.
Wow.
Called me up. He goes, okay. He goes, keep in touch. When you come up, he said, but I'm telling you, he goes, I don't have any openings, but let me know if you want to do that. So my wife, in the meantime, she's from Germany.
Who did they hire at the time?
Dennis Williams, Channel 4 sports director back in the day. And the reason he hired him is because they needed a part-time guy, and he was on TV, and he had the connection kind of be in the right. So that goes south. Like a month later, Dennis Williams no longer like they go to syndicate. Like the job didn't even exist after a month. It was
I didn't
crazy.
even know he did the show. Yeah.
Right. In the meantime, my wife was from Frankfurt, Germany. We come up to Buffalo a couple of times. She runs the half marathon in Buffalo one Memorial Day when we come up. Tells me this is a great city. I could live here. And I'm like, okay.
Wow.
So now I'm right. Because she ran the half marathon. Well, and then I've had all that stuff happened with coaching. About a year later.
Were you up visiting family? Is that when you ran the half marathon?
Yeah, up and she started running. So yeah, we
okay.
And up for it. We knew we were going to do that. So basically all this
Did
stuff.
Did you run the half marathon?
I did not. I ran
you watched her and okay. All right. You cheered her on. All right.
Half marathon guy.
Go ahead.
I play flag football. Okay. At the Epic Center. That's what I'll do. So anyway, a couple of years later, all this stuff was going on. And I figured, and in the meantime, the other thing that happened here that really helped me was I don't know if you remember, if you know, but I got a tip that the Bills were going to sign Terrell Owens. And I was the first person in the country to ever report that. And that's documented. You can look it up. And I had to take a chance if I wanted to report they were going to sign it, because if they don't, then I'm going to look like a loser who's in his mom's basement doing a podcast.
I have absolutely heard this. And I mean,
and I had to take a chance to know if I should, and if I held it and they did sign him, then I blew my opportunity.
Right.
But if I put it out there and I'm wrong, I'm done.
Right. Oh yeah. That's a huge risk.
I put it out there and they signed him. Blew up. My name blew up everywhere. So now WGR is like, okay, like you even know some stuff, right? Like, so it's kind of started the wheels in motion. So
are you at liberty to tell us where you got the tip?
I can't.
Okay.
I knew somebody who knew somebody. I'll just say that.
Well, I think it's awesome, and we don't need to know, but I like, number one, the loyalty of you saying I can't. And number two, the fact that you took this risk. This is great, but go ahead.
Someday I'll write a book. It'll be in there.
All right. We got it. Yeah. Hold you to that.
So then, so finally decided, you know what, let's do this. Called him up, said, you told me if I wanted to come to Buffalo to, he said, all right. He goes, come on up here. You're going to work part-time, pretty much minimum wage.
Yeah.
You're going to start over. How old are you? 37. You'll be the oldest producer I have.
Unbelievable.
Like, good. I'm going to make it. I'm going to make connections. I'll find my way. Okay. So my wife and I, between the two of us, we had no kids. We're making over 6 figures a year. I had my summers off. I was playing golf twice a week. Wow. I packed up everything to move to Buffalo, New York to start over in radio part-time minimum wage.
Wow.
And we moved up here. And the craziest part was the guy who hired me, he left before I got here to take another job in Cleveland. And I came up line and I heard it. I called him freaking out. He's like, don't worry.
I mean, how does he do that to you? This is the guy you wrote the handwritten letter to.
Yeah, but you know what? He was great. His name's Andy Roth. I love him. He goes, Sal, you're all set. I told everybody you're coming up. This is who you see, A, B, C. He goes, but yeah, he launched the fan in Cleveland. He still works there.
I mean, you got a lot on the line though at this point, like that's, I guess
right.
Maybe, I love him now, but you had to be a little frustrated.
My wife, for her, she said, if you really want to move to Buffalo, people drink and do drugs anywhere. Like I can work, right? I mean, like that.
Yeah.
So she got a job at Horizon Health Services.
Okay.
He's saying,
is she still with them?
She is, and she has a great job. She loves it. She loves the company. She's a little higher up, and it's awesome.
Yeah.
And she's climbed the ladder, and I'm really proud of her. And she's climbed the ladder. She is. So she's done.
You've done okay too.
And I got here, and the craziest thing was, it might have been the best thing ever that Andy left, because when with Andy, I would have had to start at the very bottom.
Yeah.
He leaves, all these guys I get here, these people running the station, they're like, yeah, Andy brought you up. He really likes you. We're going to put you on the air here. We're going to put you on the air there. And they started giving me all these on-air jobs to fill in. I started filling in. And because I was working part-time and minimum wage, I actually got certified to substitute teach. And I would go to the city schools. I'd go to South Park High School almost 5 days a week to substitute teach just to make some money. That's what I did. And
I know when you're substitute teaching, you're basically waking up in the morning and you're on call, right? Waiting to see where you go.
Well, that's what they did. I got in there and they said, we could just use you every day. Well, just let us know. Like, we have subs here. So I got in with South Park. I got a connection. I got a relationship there. I formed a relationship with people. Good. And they said to me, we also know radio comes first. So if we need you here and then you got to fill in on the morning show, that's fine with us. Just let us know. They worked with me. It was great. So that's how I did it. And then what happened was, remember, the Bills used to be on 97 Rock. right?
Yep.
Well, I get here a year later, we get the contract for the Bills. Now we have all this Bills programming opening up. That's how I got on initially into the broadcast. I was doing stats for Murph while Joe Bisceglie was on the sidelines,
Yep.
and then was at Channel 7. And I would say from here, the rest is history. And I've worked my way up to where I am now.
Wow. Wow, man. What a story. I mean, that is, if you talk about hard work, right? You talk about hard work, ethics, morals, right? Moral compass. These are words that I use daily, not only with my kids, but in my day job and in my profession. And you did it the right way. You took a lot of chances, right? And listen, you're sitting where you are now. You know, you're getting ready to board the plane, right? When you guys taking off?
Thursday night.
So, I mean, it is great. And I think you really could write a book. You know, you dive into chapters. I think we would, if we had a little bit more than 45 minutes an hour, right? I mean, we could go chapter 1.
I plan.
The boat sinks and it's off Rhode Island, right?
Oh, that's right. I will write a book someday. I plan on it. I've already been in touch with people. I think that the only problem, the honest only problem I have with writing a book right now is there's some things I want to probably put in there that I probably shouldn't put in there at this point in my career.
Okay.
That makes sense.
I get that. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you still want to be in your career, that is.
Right. And not to burn anybody, but it just might make it a little more difficult to my job. That's all. You know what I mean?
Right.
Anything like that. But there is a great story there. So I might do it in a different way. I mean, people can still write books. I just got Murph's book. John Murphy just wrote a book and I got it actually sitting over here. And there are different ways to do a book. But yes, I will tell my story in a way at some point. But that's one thing I keep saying I'm going to do it. And I need to get on that.
I think so. I mean, but you seem like somebody when you set your goals, there's no half stepping with you. So if you say you're going to write a book, trust me, I believe you. Do you know Don Purdy?
I do. Don's
Don
great.
worked with the Bills for a long time. He wrote that book. I don't know if you have that, but yeah, he just wrote that. I got some copies in my office. I'm actually helping him try to sell those. Stevie has his children's book. Donald Jones, I just had on. He had his book. I feel like almost everybody so far I've interviewed has a book out. So I think you need to join that club. But in all sincerity, I think you have a great story and it's very interesting. And I really appreciate, you coming on, and I hope you enjoyed this, Sal, because I think most often people see Sal Capaccio and they say, who's out Sunday? Who's not playing? What do you got for me? Where's the inside info? And I know you like doing that. You like talking to people, and that's your job. And I know that you love that, right? You wouldn't be doing what you're doing if you didn't. But I'm sure once in a while, try, get inside the man a little bit, right? You probably, and I'll ask you this straight out. Does it feel lonely sometimes, in that regard of like, do people really, hey, are these people my friends? Do they want to get to know me? Or is this just, am I the Bills guy?
I don't think lonely is the word I'd use. I think that I've had a love-hate with, like, in a lot of ways with social media with this, which is like sometimes with people, they'll tell you suck or whatever, they'll criticize and I don't get a lot of that. I don't. I get way less than a lot of people so believe me,
Good.
Overwhelmingly positive. But those little ones I get, I want to say, but this person doesn't know me. They don't know who I am. Like, why would you talk like that about me? Like, you know nothing about me. That's frustrating. You know what I mean? Like, that's the part that I don't, that gets me because of this. Yeah. I want to tell people, like, that's not what I'm about. Like, yeah, you might not like the opinion I gave on sports. Doesn't mean I'm an awful human being, right? And I take that stuff too personal, I guess. That is something
you just said that. I love that you just said that.
And that's the part that bothers me maybe about it. So
yeah, your opinion on something, a move the Bills may have made, or who they're playing at running back. That's your opinion on the sport. That's not Sal the man. And
or when people, we go so far with, and I know this again as such a minority, but how many times do you see it every day? I can't believe you get paid to talk about sports. They should fire you. Like, dude, I'm a human being with a job and a kids.
Right.
Like, what are you talking?
Yeah, right. And you would never see in me, there's people I dislike, right? There's people you dislike. I mean, we all, you kind of need to be a chameleon in your job, and I do as well. And you need to adapt, right? And you need to do different things and hear people out, right? And I've always had a tough time with that, real quick to react, kind of a short-tempered, short fuse, right? I'm learning later in life at 45 to take a deep breath, to type out the text, to go back, delete the text, rewrite the text, right? We live in such a text social media world where at someone's fingertips, they don't like your opinion. The next thing you know, they're blasting you. They're not rewriting the text. They're saying very hurtful things that we're all humans and we feel emotion. And listen, social media has done wonders for you in your career, and it's also done horrible things, for all of us. It is a
Yeah.
lot, with social media, period.
And for me too, like, I at this point in my career, it's great you said that about, at this point in your life. I just said to my wife, I turned 50 actually back in April, so it wasn't like the last month, but
Yeah.
I said to my wife recently, I said, you know what I've really realized about myself recently? Like, for many years, it's about me and climbing the ladder and doing this and that. And sure, I mean, I still have ambitions and I'm still doing things. I'm actually just launching a new like TV show actually that I'm doing on YouTube. I'm gonna put it out today after I talk to you. But I have these
I
things.
look forward to that. What's it called?
Sal's house
Sal's house. Okay. I will make sure that we do a shout out on that at the beginning of the show.
here, but it's literally filmed in my house with a production company.
It really?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's really cool. I'm excited for that.
And anyway, but I do have ambitions. But at this
What are you
point,
going to be doing? Like, tell us a little bit more about that. This is a good, I guess, 1 minute here to give us a shout on that. So what are you going to be doing?
Interviewing people from all different walks of life and industries about their stories, about their journeys. Most of them will have Buffalo connections. Some will not. We'll get deep into conversation. And
sounds a little bit like a show I know. It's called the Moneyball Channel.
See, when you reach out to me, I'm like, this is crazy. It's kind of what I do, but what I'm doing now, but it's going to be a little different. Like, it's literally filmed in my house, like I said, with a company and things like that. And we're gonna have people coming, but it's
sounds like the Moneyball Channel, but you have a little bit more of a budget. And you may have you know what's great with that? You have great connections, and you can take these people. You said Buffalo. Man, I wish we could talk for hours. You and I could probably end up talking for hours, and maybe we will continue this, when this ends a little bit. But it is exactly what I'm doing with the Moneyball Channel. I said I was going to start it with Buffalo, right? Now, originally, Marlon Kerner was my first guest I had. Long time buddy of mine. And I said, hey, you want to come on and we'll do a short interview. And that led to Dwyer Brown from Field of Dreams. Like these people we just started reaching out to, right? It's crazy connections, and one thing led to another, and it spiraled. And, I don't want to just interview and pigeonhole myself with athletes anymore, right?
right.
So I've done a few local Buffalo musicians. There's a couple of rappers now, Sal Capaccio, and I want to have a very wide variety of people, not just athletes. So exactly what you're doing. Let's hope you don't steal too many of my viewers. I mean, people only have time for so many YouTube listens during a day, right? But no, really, it's a really cool idea. I love it.
Yeah, something I've really wanted to do for a long time, which is because, and here the Regenesis was, everybody's got their own video cast now, podcast, Bill's podcast. It's so saturated, and I'm a talker. I'm a conversationalist. I've just wanted to do this for a long time. Yeah. So finally, we got on it. I created my own company actually recently, and it's going to be a part of that and under that umbrella. It's not affiliated with WGR in any way.
Good for you.
The very first episode's launching today, and I brought 3 media friends on. Josh Reed of Channel 4, John Scott of Spectrum News, and Matt Perino, Syracuse.com. And we talk about the media industry and fun stories and good times and bad times. And, Josh Reed covered the Sandusky Paterno thing at Penn State. We talk about really? John Scott. It's funny. It's really funny. Jerry Hughes would not answer a question from John Scott for 2 years in Buffalo media. And we get into why. What was the problem there, right?
Okay. So you guys already filmed this and it's launching today?
Oh yeah, it's already up on my YouTube page. I just haven't promoted it yet, but I actually put it up.
Awesome. This is great. Yeah, I'm definitely going to promote this for you.
Yeah, thank you. I'll let you know. And anyway, real quick, circle back. I told my wife at this point in my life.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I totally interrupted that, but
I am proud of now. I really enjoy connecting other people with each other. Like I love doing that and helping each other, right? And like there's always, I try to give back as much as I can. I do 2 scholarships every year for 2 Cleveland High School students. And, it's about being well-rounded, and it's not about academics. It's about athletics and arts and being involved in, some sort of, musical or band or whatever, and then helping out in your community. And I'll do that. And I say it on because like, it's important to me to give back in some way because I have this voice and this platform now.
You do.
And it's more important for me to connect to other people who I can help.
I think the person hearing that and the person, I'll tell you what, I think that guy traveling over on the boat, back in the 50s or whenever that was, 40s, 50s, would be very, very proud of what you just said. I never met the man. I don't know you well, but I can tell where your moral compass is. You're a very grounded human being. And again, everything I teach my kids, man, it's just, you see a different culture now. It's like society made not to get into all this, but we took a real sharp turn somewhere around on the road, and the entitlement and the way that people are now, right? Just a real quick, story and spin off of what you're saying. On Christmas morning, I let my kids run down. We open the gifts. The next thing we do is we all hop in the vehicle and we go and we give out the meals, right? We travel door to door and give out meals to those less fortunate, because that's what it is, right? And let's not get too caught up in what you're getting and your Christmas list is so long. Of course, you guys, you're going to get what you want. Santa's going to bring you whatever you want, but you're just too spoiled, and let's get back to what it really is, and let's go. So we do that every year, and we're going to continue to do that. But I really like, how down to earth you are and how grounded you are, Sal. So I'm glad I got to know you a little bit, and everyone who's listening to this gets to see a little bit different side of you as well. So thank you. I'm going to end this with a rapid fire. I got to do the rapid fire. I got to keep the tradition alive. Okay. So real quick, shout out to Elmo's. Elmo's, you'll get your plug. I know we got the sponsorship. Flats or drums or flats? Drums. Thank you. You know the last 10 to 12 guests have said flats. I'm a drum guy. It's not even a comparison. All right. So baby Joe Macy and I almost brought him out of retirement. We almost threw down on this. I mean, I'm not going to take him, with the wing there. I'm not down with that. Ford or Chevy, Sal?
Well, I know that you are, so you and I have different sponsors here, just so you know. So
okay.
I talk about a different car company than you have on yours.
Hey,
so
they're both great vehicles. How about that?
It doesn't matter. That's right. Whatever go to your representative sponsor here. We won't get into that, so we don't have to throw down here.
Third rapid fire. Is this year the Bills' year?
God, I hope so. I think they're really good. I think they're really well coached. I think they're deep. The Tre'Davious White injury is going to hurt a lot, but they can recover and still be good and really good on defense. They're great on defense, but it's going to hurt them. But they're a really good team, and I don't want to say yes, it's going to happen, but I think they have a great shot.
Yeah, it's almost now you can't jinx them, right? No, you can't jinx the Bills. So I almost, I'm not afraid to say that anymore. I used to say oh, you don't want to jinx them. Now it's almost the opposite role. When you say something and you're like, well, if you say that, it'll jinx what. Now I want to say, yeah, this is their year, and it's gonna manifest this year, I think, right? Definitely gonna hurt.
For 1 second, my car was a Chevy Monte Carlo.
Okay, all right. See, you thought about that for a minute. That was on your mind.
I know that's all right, but I know. See, you got your Westhurst stuff back there. I'd endorse Northtown on the radio. That's what it's all.
Not going to hold it against you. But yeah, I think the Bills. Something about our secondary, right? Like it's always a next man up type thing, and these guys that come in, right? They're virtual unknowns. They come out of nowhere, right? And they're great. I mean, I don't know. Do you share the same sentiment with that? It seems like the next man up role in our secondary has seemed to be working out.
Well, it's about player development. It's about having a vision on how you want to develop the player. People say they don't play rookies. That's not true. They'll play rookies. Christian Benford started last year as a rookie, but it's about developing the player and when you're ready to play, you're ready to play. That could be early, that could be later, but you're going to develop. Now is the time for Kyrie Elam. He hasn't gotten on the field. He's going to have to step up, and he's going to have to show that he's been developed over the last year and a half.
You know what's funny with you just saying that? I'm not even being sarcastic. I forgot about him. I swear to God, I forgot about him. I mean, that's this draft pick that is very, I forgot about him. There's a couple guys, like that, but we're getting the production out of Bernard. Shout out to him. He's playing like crazy. So I know you got to run. Can't thank you enough again for taking the time. Any last words? Anything you want to tell the people out there?
No, just you're never too late in life to pursue your dream, what you want. I'm living proof.
I love it. Thank you so much. Thanks everybody, and we will catch you next time on Moneyball. Take care, Sal.
All right, you too. Thank you.
All right, thanks.